Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Sharice Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Sharice Walker, your host, and if you have started a business, you're running a business, you're scaling it, you've sold it, or you're just trying to figure it out, we are going to talk about all of that today because Rani Dabrai has been through it all. She's international, actually. She's built a company and created a brand, and she sold it and actually sold it into multiple different businesses, and now she's starting more. So without further ado, Rani, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Hi, thanks for having me, Sharice. Yeah, I'm Rani. I'm an implementer of a system called EOS, which I'm sure your listeners, if they're in business, will be familiar with. I am a mum of two. I live in Ireland, so all the way over in Europe. And like you said, I work with scaling entrepreneurs just to help them run better businesses, live better lives. And entrepreneurship is what I'm passionate about. As we were saying just before we started recording, I think I'm allergic to a boss and a regular paycheck. So I ended up here, and here is where I'll stay, I think.
Well, let's talk about that. So you used to work at 9 to 5 is what we call it, right? And
Yeah.
what made you decide to leave?
So I did the 9 to 5 thing for years, and I moved here to Ireland. So I'm Irish Indian, and I moved here to Ireland. And when I moved, I kept getting kind of temp jobs one after the other, and then I found this one job which I didn't really love, but I found a way to make it work for me. And I hated the commute. And I put together a proposal for my boss of a way to do this better, to work virtually, to work remotely, and he hated it. And shortly after that, I was invited to leave. So I ended up with no job right at the start of a recession, and I didn't know what to do. And I thought to myself that just because he hated the idea didn't mean other people would as well. I quickly took it upon myself to put the idea together myself, and I came up with a virtual assistant business called Miss Moneypenny because she was the most famous assistant ever. And then it just took off. It took a while to get off the ground, but after a while it took off. And as soon as I took the voyage into self-employment, I never really looked back because I could control my time. I was my own boss. Of course, as I'm sure you know, when you make that leap, you end up going from one boss to many bosses in a different way when you're an entrepreneur in the beginning. But it was just a, decision I made and never looked back.
That is so great. And so when you were scaling, what did you find was some difficulties that you had?
Well, the biggest difficulty was me because if every time there was a problem in the business, it was always usually me pointing the finger at myself. I mean, I think the first thing that I met was, you have this ceiling that you hit, which is time. We all have the same ceiling. And figuring out how to make more time just isn't possible. So you have to delegate and you have to replace yourself on some level. And the problem is that when you do that, unless you do it properly, you end up burning bridges, and you often end up hiring people that are the wrong people, or you fill them in the wrong seats, or equally you bring someone with you who was great in the beginning and then you think they become your savior all the way through, and they can only bring you so far. So most of the time the issues started with me, but they translated into other people because I kept making so many hiring mistakes and just stumbling over myself. So there was people, and then the other big mistake was money. Not really keeping up. As soon as you start to experience any kind of growth, I think in the beginning, it's not long before you start to take it for granted. And then the problem with entrepreneurship is within the blink of an eye, you have to stay humble. Like you can be back with startup mentality again. So systemizing the people, systemizing things like finances, decision making, frameworks, those were kind of journeys I definitely had to go on to make sure that they weren't repeatable.
And it's really interesting because I've had lots of people on. We talk about interviewing, we talk about hiring, and it really is hiring the right people and knowing when to say enough is enough. And I think that sometimes we're afraid to make a hire, but as an entrepreneur, you usually are running multiple businesses, or you're building one and then you stop and then you build another one and you try to get someone in the C-suite positions or whatever. But it is really hard. I love that you're vulnerable and honest about that because hiring is a scary thing. And if you don't know how to do it, or you keep people in the wrong places too long, then it's not good. And if you don't trust, you're not ever going to grow. And so that's the
Right.
hard part as well. The second one was the systems. So how did you
Yeah.
implement systems to be able to grow?
Quite. I'm quite system minded in the sense that I love systems, but I hate setting them up. I'm not great at it. The truth was, I'll overcomplicate things. So in life, I think some people are natural simplifiers and other people are natural complicators. I'm definitely a complicator, but I appreciate simplicity when I see it. So when I really realized that having the mantra of if you're explaining something more than once, then it probably needs a process.
Mhm.
And then it definitely needs, if you've a collection of processes, then you need a system. I am lucky in terms of what I do now is obviously implementing one big system into running people's businesses better. But back then I wasn't aware of it. And funny enough, it was only as I was exiting the business did I discover what I'm doing now. I wish I had discovered it earlier. I think systems and people go hand in hand because when you put the right person in the right seat, you also have to equip them with the tools to do their job well. And systems are such a big part of that. And you know, in this day and age, I mean, even in 6 months from now, our world is going to look completely different in terms of how we're working and how we're operating because now you can systemize all the human stuff. So think we have to keep we are left with only humanizing the exceptional and systemizing everything else. So back in the day, my first thing was to recognize repetition when I saw it and then systemize it on a small scale, which eventually was a big scale.
So you build it and then you sell it. Talk to us about that. When did you decide to sell? And
Yeah, actually, it was a funny story. And since we're here talking about vulnerability, the truth behind it was that I sold when it wasn't a planned exit. I had built the business into 5 different revenue streams, and something happened in my personal life. Someone close to me became quite ill. I had 2 kids, under 2 at the time, and I was left with the choice of, well, I was left with understanding that in order for me to carry on, something had to give and I had to pick my priorities. And I ended up needing to take care of a loved one as well as obviously choosing my children. And I couldn't continue running a business. So, because I'd systemized my business in the way that it had been systemized, and because I had chunked it into 5 fairly distinct but complementary revenue streams, it was equally a blessing and a curse because the revenue streams complemented each other, but no one entity would ever come along and buy the whole thing. They were different enough that they were separate. So, I was able just fairly quickly to take the different revenue streams and I went to my competitors, and one of them sold for quite a very menial amount of money, but some of the others were quite significant. So I was able just to go to friendly competition, people who'd been after my client book for quite some time, and then offload my existing clients to them. And I did that with all but one of my revenue streams. And I turned that revenue stream took a bit longer to offload, but it was a fairly simple exit in that regard. It just wouldn't necessarily have been the way I chose to do it. And when I chose to do it, that was the other consideration.
thank you for being vulnerable because that is tough. And I'm sorry about your loved one. But that also speaks to your character as well, that it's not about the business, it's not about the money, it's about family and relationships. And that's a hard thing sometimes because, like the other night at 10 o'clock at night, I get a call. And again, it's a deal that is very, very time sensitive. And I've been working with a client for several months. And so she had the opportunity to have this house that she'd been wanting that was under contract with somebody else. And it just so happened I called the agent at the right moment and that deal had died. So they were getting ready to extend the contract. But because I called and said, look, this client, she's ready to go. We can be done before Christmas, all these different things. They jumped on it. And so then she was freaking out because she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I really want the house now. Like she's for 4 months. And so long story short, we got it. But I'm like, I think you need to go look at the house again. She's like, well, I'm working tomorrow morning. I said, it looks like we're going to go tonight. And so that's hard because you're getting your kids ready for bed. It was a little late. We got home late,
Yeah.
but it's like tuck the kids in bed and let's go. And it's
Yeah.
hard relationships. It's hard to make that juggle sometimes, but I admire you for doing that. And it's
Anyone in my position back then would have made the same choices. And, I think it's interesting what you shared because no, people don't see that stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And everything is, to my mind anyway, everything is just a trade-off. Like, I get comments all the time from other women and sometimes men as well, like, how do you do it all? How do you do it all? And it's nonsense. I don't do it all. I don't do it all at all. And the things that I do, if you see me doing well someplace, guaranteed, somewhere else, something's suffering, guaranteed. If I'm there at the school gates with my kids, something is suffering in my work. If I'm talking to an audience at work, I'm missing a school drop off. I'm not doing it all. I don't think anyone can. And it's a ridiculous myth to think we can. And sometimes those 10 p.m. choices, the 4 a.m. choices, the stuff that we have to do and the sacrifices we make, they just have to be made because actually You know, if we're parents, parenting is about time, it's also about money, and there's different ways of parenting. We're making a future for our kids. And then we're looking after, our clients. We're parents of our clients. And then we're doing everything we can. But that juggle, I think it's just one never-ending trade-off.
I love those words that you used, the trade-off, because I hear balance all the time, which it's not. Like there's so many things going on right now, and I
Mm.
took all of our Christmas stuff out to decorate, right? And we got it up. We have the tree, but the tree has no ornaments still. There's stuff everywhere in the stuff
Yeah.
room, and I'm telling my family, like, I've got to take care. This has to be done right now. I'm 2 days late on this project, and so you're gonna have to do this or it's not gonna get done or the
Yeah.
cleaning or it's like you know sorry you can't. And I think that that's the part is we as super moms sometimes it all works out, but there's other times where it doesn't, and you have to accept that and say, you know what, I think I need to hire a cleaner right now because I
Right.
don't have time to do it. And
Yeah.
me cleaning is not going to make the money.
No, it's not. And it's also not going to be part of, when you think back about core memories and, your kids aren't going to remember you cleaning. I mean, I'm more than happy. I'd rather be broke and have time. That's how I see it. Do you know? It's like if it's boiling down to choices, it's just I'd rather have time with my kids because these years are fleeting and time with myself and time with my friends and, work and it's just a trade-off. I don't know that it's a balance. I don't think that anyone can balance. It's just almost impossible.
No, that great use of words and reality. When you said that you broke your company into 5 different income streams, so
Mhm.
there's a framework, but what made you do that? And can you quickly be specific about, like, it was a VA business, right? Virtual assistant. And so what were those 5 businesses that you were able to break off into?
Sure. So it started out as a VA business, but here where I live, that was really not well understood. It was nearly 20 years ago now. So I live in the middle of the countryside and just no one understood the concept of a VA back then. I know it's commonplace now. So through a conversation with an old contact in my life, quite a strange conversation actually, he helped me come up with the idea of something that was well understood and that was a gateway into virtual assistance. And the thing that was well understood, which was quite simple, was call answering because everyone understood call answering. That was a service that everyone, an outsourced reception, they could get that. So I just overnight introduced that as a service because it made the communication with potential clients much easier. So I was able to very quickly sign up people for a lower ticket item that was less sticky than virtual assistants, more transactional, and that was an easy sell. That kind of grew unexpectedly, but I trained my staff then I still wanted the VA piece of the business. So I trained my staff instead of saying, can I take a message like other services were doing? I trained them to say, is there any way I can help you? Because I understood that the power of that question meant the caller would respond with their unmet need. And then we had an opportunity to upsell a virtual assistant service. So that was how I ended up going from virtual assistants back to call answering, then into virtual assistants again. After a while, I realized that I was missing a trick because some of the people that were coming to us for call answering didn't have a phone number, like a landline number. They just had a mobile number that they were running their entire business on. And everything from their spouse, their kids, everyone was contacting them as well as business. So I did a deal with a telecoms company where I was able to issue and basically compete with the biggest telecoms providers in my country to provide phone numbers. Again, back before Skype and Blueface and all of these were sexy, before it was easy to get a phone number, I was providing a VoIP service. And when we were providing a phone number, I then realized I had a telecoms business without realizing I was building it, kind of. And I wanted to amp that up. So I layered the call answering over the telecoms, which meant the longer we were keeping people on the phone, we were also selling minutes. So wherever someone came into one of those 3 revenue streams, I was able to upsell them to something else. So if they came in for a phone number, I sold them call answering. And once they got used to call answering, sold them virtual assistants. They came in for virtual assistants. I said, hey, do you have a phone number or do you have a call answering service? And equally, we sold them that way. And that business was going well for quite some time. And then one day we got a call from someone asking us to coordinate, use the virtual assistant service, but they wanted to coordinate a trade mission coming over from the US. And it was kind of secret, so we had to sign NDAs, and it was just quite random how they found us. But my company was called Miss Moneypenny, so the branding was quite cool and sexy, and they just came across us. So it was a one-off gig. We ended up getting 2 US senators on this trade mission and did a really great job. They went back and told people, and all of a sudden the phone started ringing from US government offices And so came this trade mission of the business, which again I hadn't seen coming. That became extraordinarily valuable and it became worth more than all of the other bits of the business combined. And we were then working, as I mentioned to you earlier, we were in Utah, I was working with US governors, just the State Department's working with SIDO. And then, again, completely accidentally, one of the governors on our trip was friends with one of his friends, contacted us, and it was kind of top secret. And he just said, listen, I, have a company, I have some assistants, I have all of this, but I have personal issues that I would love some support with. So things like I needed to, fly my poodle around the world, or I needed to, all of these get tickets to a place. And so enough of these requests came in that we were doing them well. And then he was telling his friends, and one, two, three more people started getting referred to us. Enough of those requests came in that it meant I sort of had to separate that part of the business and turn it into concierge. So then I created this brand, which was the word Moneypenny was throughout. The unifying theme was Moneypenny, but it just had different divisions. But it was 5 very distinct but connected revenue streams. And that's what happened.
That's amazing. And I love how, again, our listeners, you start with one thing, but you look for the need and then you capitalize on that and you go to the next thing and go to the next thing. So, what did you learn when you exited that you wish you would have known before you?
Oh, wow. What, before I started or before yeah. I think I probably learned I should have backed myself more and backed myself earlier. There was so many things as I exited that that expression, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. There were so many things. I mean, even now, it was such a long time ago that I exited, but even now I see things and I'm like, wow, I could try that and I should have tried that. And I remember having the idea back then, but not being brave enough to do it because I was playing it safe and I was afraid of what people might think. And I was, nearly 20 years younger then, so I wish I had just taken a few more risks because I probably systemized earlier. I wish I'd have taken some more education. I almost certainly would have gotten more money at the exit stage. Maybe I would have actually structured things better that I wouldn't have needed to exit when I did. I feel like if I had gone back and systemized and structured better and truly built a business that ran without me, maybe I'd still have that business. So I think I would have backed myself more. I think I probably would have taken more risks. I definitely would have understood if I could go back in time, like if my kids were going to do this, I would say straight away systemize, straight away look for the needs, straight away hire before you think you need to, because the more you can be free as the visionary leader, the more progress you'll make quicker. So just a few things, I think.
That's good. Good advice. Yeah. I mean, when you go on a vacation and you go to a foreign country, because we've been to Ireland where you are, and I'm like, dang, I wish I would have done that, or dang, I wish I would have, or I wouldn't
Yeah,
have done
yeah.
that. And I think that hindsight's always 2020. So I'd love to ask people, what is that what
Yeah.
you would have known? Let's transfer to motherhood now, because
Oh, wow.
motherhood is a blessing. And it is. I love that you said it's fleeting because you only have them for a short time and that goes
Mm,
by so quickly. I just celebrated my twins' 26th birthday and I'm like, oh,
wow.
I cannot believe and remember when they were born. And so it's so fast. And so as an entrepreneur, what do you do to make time for your children?
So, two things. Number one, absolutely everything I can to make time for my children. Everything I can. I go to crazy extremes to ensure. I mean, I measure my life in bedtimes and breakfasts that I'm around for, because for me right now, that's all that counts. For me, my life is it's binary right now. My choices are I'm either with my kids or I'm not with my kids. That's how I see it. If I'm with my kids, then I have to be fully present. And if I'm not with my kids, then I should be doing something that will support them in some way. That's how I feel about it. So whether it's working and if I'm doing that, or if it's supporting me, if it's filling my cup. So it has that trade-off absolutely has to be worth it if I'm not going to be with my kids. So I'll do a 24-hour day to make sure that I wake up in my own bed and go back to sleep in my own bed and travel to another country and come back again. If I think I can do that, I will because it makes all the difference for them. And I don't care how tired I'm going to be. I'll minimize and really I go to all these amazing, wonderful places and my friends will always say to me, didn't you have a great time? Didn't you stay and look around? And the way I see it is I could, but it's better for me to come back a day early and, see my kids because it's fleeting, right? I'm not going to get that time back. I'm never going to regret doing that. But in order to do that, the second big thing I do is I plan very, very diligently, really far in advance. So I have me and my small team, we work really hard and we plan. We've got this crazy big spreadsheet that we can see 2 years at a glance. And, I plan things 6, 8 months out. I really proactively make time. I buy tickets. I plan things. I think that anything that looks effortless takes a lot of effort. So if there's a cool trip, if there's theater, if there's holidays, I mean, book I on my calendar, I have all of the school holidays blanked out. Like I tell my kids the holidays belong to them. Weekends, I'm never away. I'm always home for the weekend. If I have to travel, I make damn sure I'm home. So I go to a lot of trouble to forward plan and proactively create that time for my kids because otherwise I feel like work can leak and leak and leak into absolutely everything. And there's this weird creep that happens. Just 5 more minutes. I've just got to do this. I've just got to do that. And if that does happen, what I'll do is I'll get up earlier. I'll get up at 4 and 5 and I'll do things before they're awake. And then I can be there for breakfast with them. Look, it's not perfect. I'm no saint. There are some days where I'm frantically catching up on emails at the kitchen counter while they're eating breakfast. These are the trade-offs. But I do everything I can that 80% of their non-school time, and I measure it, by the way, I put data around it, 80% of their non-school time, I'm with them. And I take them to all their activities, and I'm waiting there and I'm watching, and I'm freezing outside in my coat that looks like a duvet just to be on the mat watching the match for them because I know that the minute that they, score a goal or they do something, they look up and they look for me and they see me, and I know what they're going to remember that. That's what's meaningful to me. So I'll do everything I can to make sure those moments keep happening.
Good for you, because that takes discipline. And the boundaries is what we call it too, but it's really important. Even my daughter, she takes a swimming lesson, and so her head's in the water most of the time. But when she comes out of the water, she's looking at me to see if I'm watching her. And there's times where I had to bring my computer, and she's like, "Mom, you're on your computer." I'm like, And so they do look to make sure that you're watching, no matter what.
Yeah, they feel it. They feel it. The small thing, like making cookies. And it's the small things I think that we don't even realize
Mhm.
that we can try and be there for all the birthday parties and stuff. But actually, I think the stuff they remember is that small stuff. Like when your daughter pops her head out of the pool, that's what she's going to remember. Not the Christmas presents, not all the other stuff. I think it's the small things. So I feel like, is it a lot of pressure? Probably, yeah. But I'll never stop putting that pressure on myself because I don't want them to move out and go to college and for me to have any regrets. That's how I feel about it.
Speaking as a mom who's raised four, and now I have two more, at the tail end, it's hard. It's hard. One advice or one golden nugget, I think is what we're going to call it for a mompreneur. If you could give anything, what would you say?
I think that there will always be more work, but there will never be more time. So find the trade-off and stick to it because, like I said, you'll never regret doing it and your kids will thank you for it forever. And I read this funny thing and this is probably what frames this. I read this thing on Instagram or one of these social media things ages ago, and it said that the way that your kids treat you when they no longer need you will be exactly the same as how you treated them when they really needed you. So I think that what we do now is planting the seeds for our future relationship with the adult version of the children that we're raising now. So I think it's really important to be really disciplined and focused and energetic and proactive about making these minutes, these hours count. So work is going to come and work will go. And as long as you're doing something you love, and if you can include them, great, better again. And I'm really open about it as well. I'm really open with anybody that I work with that my kids come first. And if that's not going to work for you, no problem. We don't need to work together. So yeah, I think you can always make more work, but you can't get your time back.
No, that's very true. Such good advice. Well, Rani, if people wanted to find you or get a hold of you, how would they do that?
LinkedIn is probably the best way. I put stuff out on LinkedIn every single day, so I'm easy enough to find there. And just send me a DM. I'm always on it.
And what are you doing now? Because we didn't even talk about what you're doing now.
Yeah, so it's mainly EOS. So I'm in the US. I'm an implementer of the entrepreneurial operating system. So I'm the only person in Ireland right now who does this. But in America, lots and lots of people run on EOS. So I'm one of the tiny little tribe of people bringing it to Europe. But yeah, so I work with scaling businesses. I work with entrepreneurial leadership teams to implement EOS into their businesses and help them get more of what they want out of their business. And then obviously their life. There's a knock-on effect.
And for those that don't know what EOS is, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So it stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's just a really simple set of practical tools that business owners can implement in their business to run that business better. And it's focusing on, we concentrate on three key things, and they are vision, traction, and healthy. So vision means that every single person in your business is on the same page with where you're going and where you're headed long term. They know how you're going to get there. Traction is helping entrepreneurial leadership teams run their businesses with discipline and accountability. And then healthy is all about ensuring that all of that team dysfunction that appears when you're running a scaling business is dealt with and is eliminated. So it's just implementing that in your business and making sure that you're running a successful business, but still living well, having a successful life.
And you were handpicked somebody invited you. You weren't even looking for this when you started, correct?
Yeah, like I wish I had found it before. I definitely would have had an easier an easier way of running my business. Yeah, I got a tap on the shoulder when when I exited. I was sort of noodling around. I didn't know what to do because my company had become my identity, and I didn't know what I was going to do with myself or my time, how I was going to spend my days. And then a friend of mine who does what I do, she tapped me on the shoulder and said, maybe you'd be a good fit for this and come and check it out. And I did. And it was just, I've never looked back. I really love it. It brings me a lot of joy. It brings joy to people that I work with. I get to support another, team. My little team is all moms, and they get to live life on their terms and support their kids as well. And then they get to be there for every match too. So I really am big on making sure that I do this because I get time for myself and my family, but I want to make sure that anyone that works with me also has the same. And also it means that because of what I do, the leadership team and their family members, they also get their time back. So it translates through. So yeah, I just think it's a very unusual way to live, but I love it.
So good. And I'm sorry that we didn't talk about that earlier because we talked
Oh.
about it before we started recording. So anyway, well, thank you. And I think that that is so important, that helping entrepreneurs scale and grow, that support is needed because sometimes we feel like we're on an island. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
Thank you.
and mompreneurs, you aren't alone, really, and you can do anything that you want to. And so if you're feeling like you're struggling, then reach out to Rani because she's done it. She's built it, she's scaled it, she's sold it, and now she's helping other people. So go out and make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Sharice Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Sharice Walker.